justification mean here?
What's your
Like an
justification for
epistemic
ethics in your
justification.
view?
Oh, an epistemic justification.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, well then the answer is going to be, I mean, I'm not, do you understand what epistemic justification means?
Yeah.
What do you think it means?
I'm asking you.
No, what do you think epistemic justification is, just so we're clear?
Just so we're clear, how do we know what we know? What makes it reasonable or rational? What the evidence? Yeah.
Yeah, so you're asking me how I know certain things are wrong, right?
I'm asking you for the justification for ethics.
Right. And by justification, you just mean a story about how you know something.
Not
So
a story. No, I'm not asking for a story. I'm asking for your justification for something like ethics to exist in your atheist paradigm.
When you say justification, I'm not sure what you mean. If you're using epistemic justification in a standard way, I do understand what you mean, but it's not clear that you're doing that.
How is it not clear?
Yeah, so I can tell you how I understand epistemic justification in a very standard way. Just be, for example, you might show how your belief is warranted according to some norms, or you might show how your belief is supported by reasons or evidence. That's how I understand epistemic justification. Is that how you're understanding it?
I mean, yeah, it's sort of like that, but it's more so what is the basis for it? Because
okay, now when you use that basis talk, now I don't know it, because I don't know what you mean there.
You don't know what I mean when I say basis.
No, I understand what you mean when you ask me what's the epistemic justification for some belief. However, I'm not sure, and if you're using the standard notion, I'm quite happy in answering that question. But then when you add in this basis thing, now you need to sort of clarify what's that supposed to be doing there.
I'm asking, how do you justify ethics in your worldview?
Yeah, so, and I can tell you, if by justify you just mean the very standard notion of epistemic justification, which I've clarified previously, I can answer that question. However, you actually don't mean that notion, because you mean that plus some other condition, which is like explicating the basis. And I'm not sure what basis is supposed to mean there.
Well, how would you answer the first question then? We'll go with that.
And so first, let's clarify. So you're asking me, what's my epistemic justification? I take epistemic justification to be a property of beliefs, right? And the belief in question, is it just that there is ethics or there is morality, or is the belief certain things are wrong? Just so we're clear on what the belief you want me to justify is.
Like, is the first one.
Okay, there is ethics. Okay, yeah. So in order to answer this question, I'll just give you my very brief semantics for what knowledge is, for what evidence is, and then for what ethics or morality is. Okay. Yeah. By knowledge, I take knowledge to be, I don't think knowledge has a very clear, albeit very precise definition, but largely I take knowledge to be something that's very intercontextual. And so I think that across different contexts, the standard of evidence that's required for a belief to count as knowledge will change across context. And so in order to answer this question, I'll be operating in what I might call a mundane context to start. Okay. Furthermore, what are ethics? What are morality? Well, I just take morality to be, albeit very vague, but roughly, it's like this kind of, nexus or system or set of norms considering which actions are good, bad, right, wrong, permissible, impermissible, just, unjust, cruel, uncruel, etc. Okay. And now I believe that there is such a thing as ethics and morality. And what would be the justification for this? Well, I just think that very simply there's all sorts of inductive evidence of people using this language, and people using this language to guide their actions, and people embedded in the social circle where they just act according to these norms. And so I think the justification is largely inductive. So that's a very simple answer to your question. Okay, now did you have a different question?
So pretty much your evidence is a lot of people do this, therefore that's the justification.
Yeah, so what you wanted me to justify is that there is, let's be clear, I hold a belief that there is such a phenomenon of morality. Okay, what did I take morality to be? Well, I take morality roughly to be kind of a system of norms different people tend to accept about which actions are good, bad, impermissible, permissible, etc. It's just kind of that system of norms, and there's behavioral facts in there. There's like reasoning, there's like practical reasoning facts kind of in there. And now, what would it be sufficient to justify that thing is something that occurs? Well, you just point to the evidence of this phenomenon occurring, and that would just be people engaging in these sort of behaviors. There's a justification. So I've answered your question very succinctly, very clearly. Is there some problem you have with my answer?
Yeah, I just don't see how it's a justification saying that, certain people around the world, they follow this basic moral like system, because across the world we have different cultures that have different social norms and different moralities. So how is
I think you're kind of confused. I think you're kind of confused. If I asked you, okay, you believe that people play baseball, right?
I mean, yeah, I see it happen.
What's the justification?
How is this relevant to the question I asked you?
Yeah, I mean, I can show you. I mean, well, I mean, if you want to explain it, the relevance would be, okay, I'll just tell you what your answer will be. Your answer will be, okay, well, there are all sorts of people, there's all sorts of inductive evidence. People play this sport on television. There's a lot of advertising for this sport. There are a lot of games that, for which this event is contested across the world, etc. Okay, now what's the parallel?
So it's sort of like an evidentialist approach.
Is there morality or is there ethics? Yes, what's the justification? People engage in these practices. People use this discourse across the world. They engage in such behavior. Okay. Now the parallel there is just showing that it seems like in one case you think the justification is adequate, but in this case I'm struggling to understand why it isn't. Were you asking me to justify something different?
No, I mean, you answered the question. It wasn't correct. It's more of an evidentialist approach. It's like, oh, I see it happen, so it must be. Is that your worldview works? It's more of an evidentialist approach. I am
an evidentialist in epistemology, but like, look, I mean, if you ask me something, okay, what is the justification that something is present or something occurs, and that thing we're talking about is something that is like practiced by people. It's a phenomenon where people make certain judgments, they use certain language and engage in certain behavior. Then how we justify that is just to pointing to cases inductively where this behavior is exhibited. Okay, so I don't see this as any different as saying, what's the justification that people play baseball? What's the justification that people run for president? Right. Now that question's been answered, I mean, is there some more specific question you had, or is that all? Because the claim you made in that VC was that atheists can't justify, ethics, and by ethics we've clarified what we mean, just this kind of process of people making certain judgments, committing certain norms, etc. However, it seems like by your own lights, I've just given you a justification that there is ethics, and ethics occurs. And the practice of ethics occurs. But it seems like, I don't know, maybe this isn't what you're asking for. Did you want to ask something else? I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I suspect this guy's talking about more realism. Is that the case?
Yeah, I just don't know if that's not the question, I don't really know. Because I did clarify everything, how I was using the terms. Were you trying to ask me something different, or?
Well, it's more so along the lines of morals, but
okay. Are you trying to? Okay, let's see.
I guess he did. He did kind of like reply to it.
Okay, cool. Now, are you trying to ask me how I justify things being wrong? Like, let's say murder is wrong. Well, killing people.
Yeah, it was more along. Okay. Yeah, it was more along the lines of right or wrong, because that's what was.
Okay, well, I can give you. Yeah, I can also explain that as well. So, now I do believe such things are wrong, and there's like a question about the metaethical semantics, which is like, what does it mean for an action to be wrong? And at least for me, roughly what that will mean is that action is in strong conflict with certain values that I tend to hold, certain preferences I might have. Okay, and so now I believe that there are things that are wrong. What is the justification for that? Well, what would make it true on my view that an action is wrong would just be some particular set of psychological facts or attitudes that I tend to have. And so the justification would simply be when I notice certain events, when I reflect on certain events, having knowledge of the facts about those events, the consequences they produce, etc. I tend to realize certain attitudes. And inductively, I draw an inference which is like, well, yeah, at least I think the most plausible hypothesis here is just that, I do it because I tend to realize these attitudes when these cases are realized, and when I reflect on such cases, that these attitudes are in violation of certain values that I have. Okay, so there is a justification for such actions being wrong.
Well, yeah, your justification is appealing to your own reasoning, correct?
Yeah, of course.
So what would make your reasoning right in contra to someone else's reasoning? Like, how do we...
Wait a second. I'm not understanding. Okay, so the question is... So I agree the justification is appealing to my own reasoning. I used some type of logic. I used my introspection. I formed an inference, and then you're asking me what would make the inference right? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, like why should we accept your morals as opposed to someone else's?
Okay, well that's a different question. The first one seemed to be asking a question about the reliability of my reasoning. Now you're saying something like, okay, well, you think certain things are wrong. Presumably there are different people, and different people might believe the same thing that you think is wrong to be right. And you see that you're asking me, like, why would we accept your view over their view? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. When you say why would we accept my view over it, because like a lot of people ask me this, and it's kind of a weird. I think the question is like almost confused. Are you asking me why you personally would accept my view over their view?
Why is your view right and someone else's view wrong? Or do you not believe that?
But when I say, but then that's treating moral rightness or wrongness. That's treating that as like a invariant thing. But I take whether something is morally right to be or wrong to be a relative thing.
Oh, so you're a moral relativist?
Yeah, I mean, well, I wouldn't really. I mean, under the standard philosophical notion, no. But my semantics for what morals are, those are relativist semantics. But I wouldn't call myself relativist according to how the view is understood in philosophy, because that comes with some stronger empirical burdens I don't tend to accept. But for the sake of this conversation, I'm happy to say, yeah, my semantics are like relativist. And so when you ask me, well, why is your view correct as opposed to somebody else's view? Well, I mean, both views can be correct, because what it means for a moral view to be correct is kind of variant.
Yeah, because it's relative.
That's right.
It's interesting. So I have a question for this, because I've never really dealt with someone that's...
Well, before you ask your question, so let's agree with the first two things. The first thing was you asked me to justify that ethics occurs. I think you agreed that I've done that. Then you asked me to justify that there are things that are right and wrong, and I think you now agree that I've done that. Is that correct?
Well, it's all relative, so it kind of just... I was asking more for like an objective metric, but if it's just relative, then it's out the window.
An objective. I mean, you could. I mean, I'm not somebody who believes that morality is objective. I'm not sure you are as well. Like, aren't you like some type of divine command theorist?
But my appeal would still be to the objective, which is God. That would still be my appeal.
Don't you think? But you think whether something. I mean, if you're using objective, what it means for morality to be objective or subjective in the very standard way, as it's used in like philosophy. Don't you take the view that what it means for something to be good is to be in accord with like God's attitudes?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just subjectivism.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is, right? Because subjectivism, as a metaphysical theory, it makes a very simple thesis, and it just is that what it means for a given action to be good or bad, right or wrong, is just that it's in accord with the mental state, with the attitudes of a given subject. Now, you could talk about like an appraiser relativism or different forms or subjectivism, whatever it is. The point is that your view just is a subjectivist view of morality. Because what it means for an action to be good is just that it's in line with the attitudes, the mental attitudes that God has, the sort of psychological dispositions that God has. Okay? But that's subjectivism. That's actually not objective morality.
Why is it subjectivism?
Sorry, what?
Why is that?
I mean, he just explained.
I just explained it entirely.
It doesn't make sense.
Dude, that's just strange. Like, if I explain something in detail and then you just ask the same question that I just like answered in detail, it doesn't make any sense.
Because it doesn't make sense. Just saying because something aligns with God's intentions makes it relative does not really make sense.
No, it's not. Look, the simple thing is that subjectivism, what is subjectivism? It's just a thesis in metaphysics that what it means for a given action to be good or bad is just not, it is in accord with the attitudes of some given subject, maybe a collection of subjects, etc. And on his view, that's just satisfied by his view, where what good or bad means is just in line or in accord with the attitudes of God. Okay, now that means his view is subjectivism. Okay. Okay.
Oh, I'm muted? My bad.
No, I mean, I thought the person...
He's talking to Vera Day.
All right. Well, I mean, if he doesn't have anything else, whatever. But yeah, so I mean, I guess it's not clear to me how your view has objective morality. Now, there could be a further question, which is like, why would we even think that there is such a thing as objective morality? But you don't even believe that there is, so it seems like we're on the same page there.
Well, no, it would be objective because God doesn't fit in the confines of our subjective reasoning. He would be outside of that.
You're confused. When you say God, like it's objectively true, God exists, that doesn't make whatever he commands to be like objectively true, right? What it means for the expression to be objectively true is that is something entirely different than it being expressed by like an objectively ontic entity, right? Because if you're just saying that it is the case that God is objective, therefore whatever he expresses is objective, that would just carry over for like any agent that which is objective who forms an expression of like moral judgment, right? So if I say killing is right, given the presumably like the necessary and sufficient conditions you provided for what it means for something to be objective, that it's just expressed by an objective entity, then that just makes all expressions of moral attitudes objective in the sense that they're expressed by objectively existent entities, right? And that's not what objective morality is. Objective morality wants to say that that these type of moral judgments aren't made true in virtue of some subjective stance, that they exist mind independent, right? And that's going to be committing you to like these moral entities that exist, right? Like Platonism, where there's going to be like entities, kind of think like language, right? We take it that language is just like an instrument of communication that humans developed, right? If you say that like something is wrong, like there's a wrong definition independent of a lexical recourse, right? Like some specific dictionary source, then that's going to like commit you to like semantic or linguistic realism, and that just means that there are true definitions that exist outside the mind, right? Like there are like definitional entities, right? And presumably you don't believe in like moral entities. Do you believe that there's entities that exist that are moral? Like I'm an entity, right? You take it that I'm like an existing agent, right? Do you think that there's like a moral entity that exists in the same sense as like a rock exists?
I would say we ground our morals and ethics in God. That's what we ground it in, because in our paradigm.
That's just like how Mason explained, or Bal-Inovat explained. That's just like going to be like conducive to the definition of like relativism under the standard account, right? And that's what.
Yeah, look. If you just have a view,
definition of objective is
about metaphysics that isn't realistic, that's okay.
Is maximally perfect in every aspect.
Both of you.
Wait, sorry. What is it? What did you just say?
I think objective morality just is morality that is in the framework of God because he's maximally perfect.
Yeah, but that's
no. Wait 1 second. What you can do? You can offer like a proprietary definition of what it means for. Like if you just define objective morality as the view that morals in the right kind of way are grounded in God, if you just define it that way, and I just agree with you that your view is, so to speak, objective morality under how you define it. However, you're just merely offering an idiosyncratic definition of the terms relative to how they're used in philosophy.
What is your objection here?
Yeah, I'm just saying. No, I mean, I didn't give an objection. I agreed with you. In fact, I said
he's saying you're using different semantics.
In the same way, if I define objective morality as like cheese or something, then of course there's objective morality in the sense that there is cheese. But the point is that all I'm doing is offering a proprietary definition, like you are.
The thing here is, it is kind of like the only definition, since God is by definition the perfect being. So
the
there's
only
nothing that is.
Right? I don't know why you're saying such silly things. Look, if you were to look at the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy, the Internet Encyclopedia of Philosophy, or any book, paper about what it means for, what moral realism is, or about like intro to metaphysics, then you'll quickly realize that there actually are standard notions of what it means for morality to be objective, and you're just giving something that's non-standard and proprietary. And the point is that like anyone, I can easily do the same thing as well, and it's not really interesting. In the same way where I define what it means for morality to be objective, is it to be in accord with my desires? Then on my view, morality is also objective, but just merely under how I'm using the terms. Now, if that's all you have to offer, just redefining terms in proprietary ways, that's not really interesting. Like nobody will disagree with you.
But what I'm saying is, the reason why objective morality has to be in the framework of God himself, because God is really infinite.
What do you not understand?
You're just merely not tracking what I'm saying. Look, the point is simple. Look, it's a very simple point. The point is just to express that The point is just to express that if you're just merely defining, what it means for reality to be objective in that way, then nobody disagrees with you. Now, whatever your motivation for defining it that way is, I don't really care.
But the discussion should be like, what is the definition that would have the best motives? Or
what do you mean?
That are...
make any sense.
Wait, what do you mean have? Wait, what? What do you mean by have the best motives?
So, for example, if someone gives a definition for objective morality, and he said everyone would agree with you anyway, but the motives would be different, right?
I don't understand what you're. The question was, when you say the goal of this discussion should be to figure out which definition has the best motives, what do you mean by best motive?
The motives that would make the most logical motives.
When you say most logical motives, what does that mean?
The ones that would be most logically consistent.
Okay, well, hold up. But each motive, I don't really take motivations to be propositions, so I'm not sure what it means to say that they're logically consistent. Now, there could be considerations.
If you want to justify your belief,
there could be considerations that we could express propositionally that we might just quasi call like motivational things or whatnot. But then both motivations would be equally consistent once we express them in propositional ways.
Verte, what does the word objective mean?
Yeah,
let me walk you through what it is, by the way. Okay, so let's consider my motivations. Okay. I am using the standard account of moralism used in philosophy. What are the motivations? Well, we can express the considerations in terms of propositions. For example, one consideration is that there is a historical usage, there's a historically common or standard or roughly standard usage of these terms. That's one consideration. That's a proposition. Okay, let's add another consideration just so we can have a set of propositions. Another consideration could be these terms are contained in peer-reviewed philosophy resources. That's another consideration. Okay, those propositions are consistent. There isn't a contradiction between them. Okay, now let's use your motivations. Okay, let's say hypothetically, your motivation for adopting that definition is because you are a Christian. That's a proposition. Okay, let's say I have another motivation. Because this definition makes you feel good. I'm not saying those are your motivation. I'm just giving examples. Those two propositions are also consistent. And the point is that our motivations just will be if you're saying we should use the definition which is supported by consistent considerations, then that'd just be equally true for both.
What does this have to do with objectivity?
Huh?
What does this have to do with objectivity?
We're talking about more realism.
Right. So he made this odd claim that divine
he was just using
theory,
different semantics.
Yeah. Why is my question?
Because he probably doesn't know philosophy.
Why are we speculating as to his motive if we can just ask him?
We're not really interested in his motive, right? And literally Mason just went down his motive was to say because it's more logically consistent, and Mason just illuminated how they're equally logically consistent, right? So that just doesn't really matter, right? And all Mason is saying is that under his account he's just redefining terms to which he can I don't really know what you're talking about.
Well, why are we letting it redefine terms?
Joseph, what would be your definition for
objective? Whatever we want.
What would you call objective?
Look, so Virde, you understand that we're just using the standard account of how the terms are defined in philosophy, right? Not like the idiosyncratic terms as you use it, right? You're just making up a definition that's not the standard account of what more realism and more relativism are, right? And under the standard account,
I did not give a definition of objectivism as as to change the standard definition of it.
You did. You said what you meant by moral realism is that it's expressed by God, right? Because Mason already went through the motions explaining how under your view of divine command theory in the standard account that qualifies as subjectivism.
I might have phrased it wrong, but what my point was, for the standard definition of the words.
Look, okay,
objective morality has to be grounded in God.
That's what subjectivism is. Look, do you take it that the moral facts are made true in virtue of a subject?
Sorry, what?
Yeah, do you take it that the moral facts are made true in virtue of a subject? Yeah, God. Oh, so moral facts aren't made true by God?
They're made true by God.
Oh, and you take it that God's the subject, right?
It depends what you mean by that.
Okay, do you take it that God has knowledge?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, he's the subject. Okay, so what moral relativism states is that moral facts are made true by a subject. And if you're saying God created the moral facts, then that just means that the moral facts are made true of a subject, right? Again, moral realism says that there's stance-independent, mind-independent moral entities that exist, right? And that these normative facts are really just descriptive facts, right? But that's not what you're saying. You're just saying that what moral facts are is whatever God, like, espouses them to be, right? And that's just subjectivism.
Yes, but you're treating God as if he was a human agent or something.
He is an agent, and no one said anything about human.
Wait,
Right? Look, all relative.
No, but you're applying the same.
No, you agreed he has the same
logic.
I don't. By same logic, you mean like classical logic? Like no one's changing.
No. I'm
why would I
saying
change
you're
the
applying
logic?
the same logic of humanity onto the
No,
subject
look.
of God himself.
No, look, that's just what the definition of the term means.
When you say,
Look.
just because I believe that morality is grounded in God, and
That's
just because God has
subjectivism.
knowledge,
Look.
therefore that's like
Wait,
relativism because he's a subject.
Wait. You understand the definition is meant to be necessary and sufficient conditions for which something qualifies. Yeah?
That's right. Yeah.
You understand that?
Sure.
Okay, and you understand under the account of the standard account of moral relativism in like philosophical literature, your understanding of like God grounding morality is going to be like moral subjectivism.
Nah.
No one said anything about humans.
Look.
Look,
The
wait,
thing
no,
is,
wait. I just want to get clear.
God's knowledge,
Where did you?
the nature of God's knowledge is different from the.
That doesn't
Sure.
matter.
What's your question?
I don't. No one's talking
It
about the
does
nature.
kind of matter. It's not
Oh.
kind of
Jewishly
matter, it
poisoning
really
the well
does.
right now.
Wait, go ahead and explain how it matters.
Because
We have a
the
spaz.
knowledge of God would be like the ultimate knowledge, or the maximum. Or
Hold on, I
it
can't
would
hear you
go
with other people
onto
talking.
every proposition. Okay.
Can you repeat?
Sure. So, like, the nature of God being what it is, being unlimited and having, like, maximum qualities, makes it different to, say, like, the human knowledge. So it's
That doesn't
morality
matter.
being, like, grounded in God. It has...
Look, I can
to be,
grant
like-
look, I can grant you that his knowledge is maximum, right? That doesn't turn on anything, right? We're not all we mean by moral relativism under the standard account, under like philosophical literature, it's just something that's made like a moral fact or normative fact made true, independent of like the relativity of a subject or mind, right? And that it's like not mind, or that it is mind dependent. That's all it means, right? And
Yes,
you're just saying that God has a different like type of mind. Okay, I can grant you that. That's fine. But you agreed that God has mental states, right? We're not talking about what model of a mind does he have. That's not pertinent by any means, right?
But what do you mean by mental states, though?
Okay, well you agreed God has knowledge, right?
Sure.
Okay, and knowledge is a property of a mind. So God has a mind.
Okay.
Okay, great. So God has a mind, and you're saying that the moral facts that God espouses are made true by him. So they're made true by a subject, by an agent.
Okay.
Okay, so that's moral subjectivism. What are you not clear about?
If it's like
Good job, everybody.
no, I can get your point here.
That's all we're saying.
That's under the standardized definition.
Yeah, that
of
is
the
under the
words.
standard.
It's just
account.
under a,
Look, you understand most theologians are gonna like agree, like even like other Christians and people
I know,
who believe in
I
God.
get it.
They believe that like God that look, I can grant you that you have like some norm, and that norm is just gonna be whatever God commands to be like these like normative facts, right? That doesn't make it not the case.
Yeah, but that doesn't
God
entail more
has an-
subjectivism, right?
Well, if he should, well,
You
yeah,
can
but no,
say- you
he's
can
saying
be
that
divine
they're
command theorists.
he's saying that they're
divine
grounded by
command theorists
God,
who
though.
believe that whatever God commands is like that which is moral, but still be like a moral realist.
No, yeah, I understand that, but he's saying that the moral facts are grounded under God's deliberation.
Okay.
Yeah, look, if you're saying that there's like God's
It depends on what
commanding,
type of grounded relation he's talking about. Like, does he mean like what God's commands are going to be the tracking tools that we would utilize in conversations or deliberation to know the moral facts? Because if so, that wouldn't entail moral realism. Because under my view, I don't believe that God's commands are moral just because he's God, but I believe that God's commands are moral because God's commands entails some maximization of utility. Okay.
I don't think he knows. He's not going to understand most of that.
Was that like an argument you're running against like his moralistic view, or like an argument against God specifically?
Oh no, that was just under his account, because Mason was here earlier and he was like talking with someone else, and he went through the motions of how like this other individual was like saying that he's a more realist because like God, and he explained how like this under standard account it's like subjectivism, and then they like finished their conversation, but this guy was like still disagreeing with Mason, and Mason left because he had to go. I think he had class or something. And I'm trying to explain to him. Like,
and by the way, monkeyboy, could I ask, when you're done like talking to these guys, let me know if you're down to have like a discussion about God and so forth.
Sure, I guess. Well, I mean, I guess we're done with the conversation now, right? So this, okay. You understand, like, is there any disagreement? Like, you already agreed God has a mind. You're saying that the moral facts are made true because what God like commands them to be. There's no disagreement that that's like mind dependent. That's just like subjectivism, right? You're just like using different semantics. You understand you're a moral subjectivist? Yes?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you understand you're a moral subjectivist now?
I was kind of distracted. It's just under the strict definitions of the words you're using.
Yes, yeah, the standard way, not the ways you define them that aren't the standard way.
It really depends what you mean by standard here.
Yeah, look, so if under
Monkeyboy, could you unmute WoW real quickly, please?
And it's just like
WoW guy,
norm, I guess, or what's considered.
Yeah, so
listen,
look,
thank you.
So it's just under like a traditional norm, right? Like, let's say the definition of dog. What I mean by dog is like a red spherical object, right? That's just not the standard definition of what a dog is, right? So when I say John doesn't have a dog, and I'm like, yeah, it is a dog because he qualifies under like this, you know, biological consideration, or atomistic, or like the autonomy of the entity is like such that it like meets the necessary and sufficient conditions under a biological norm of what a dog is. And you say no because what a dog is a red spherical object, and your dog's not red nor spherical, right? You're just using a non-standard definition, and I can grant you, if all you mean by dog
but when
is
the person says your dog is not a red spherical object,
well, yeah, whatever. Yeah, I wouldn't qualify as a
Are
dog,
they saying your red spherical object is not a red spherical object, or your concept?
Yeah.
But could you unmute WoW, please, and thank you. He's like my friend. He's pretty cool.
No, I don't. Okay.
Okay, so
yeah.
Just a quick question, right? So, do you think, for example, if you were to say like morality is only like causally dependent, right, on God's mind, that is to say, like God's mind, right, started the process of him changing morality